So today I'm sitting down with Matt, who's one of the members in our community who just completed his flip challenge, taking $1,000 to $5,000. And he got started trading with us just a couple months ago. Now, what I love about his story is that it's real. Matt actually didn't flip his account on his first try. He did it on his second. His win rate was also well below over 40%. And he got stuck on a couple oil trades that we'll be talking about in this interview. But then obviously something clicked and he saw success. So what we're going to be covering in this interview is his entire journey, from where he started and what his trading even looked like before, to the one trade that cost him the most amount of money, to the actual challenge numbers itself, starting from the balance, the drawdown, to the actual turning point that changed everything for him. We're even going to break down the exact framework and rules that he followed to flip his account correctly. Then we're going to go over how journaling and tracking his trades inside tradedna changed the game for him. Then we'll go over the role the community played and the honest answer everyone's wondering: was it easy? So let's get straight into the process and let's break down this interview. What's going on, guys? So I'm here with one of my good friends, Matt. He just got started with trading here, and you were part, I know, Matt, of the flip challenge here. So I'm excited to kind of go over just some of your results here and just some of the process that you've gone through within our entire community, and also utilizing the software and just our group as a whole here. So yeah, Matt, I would love for you to kind of go over just a little bit about who you are and what did your trading really look like before, working with us or using any type of software in our group.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for the introduction, John. I've been kind of involved with like stocks, and I went to school for finance and accounting. So I definitely had like a background in industry, like parallel to trading. Definitely a different ball game with like long-term investments. You're not really looking at charts too much or anything like that. But I definitely had a sense of like fundamentals and everything like that, and had been investing in stocks since like COVID, honestly. But in terms of day trading, there really wasn't any background up until I'd always followed your page. I was keeping up to date. You look like you had been killing it. And I was kind of looking for like a side hustle that could build up my income. And I felt like I had some idea of how this world works. Once I learned more about it, I realized how much I didn't know. But for sure, I kind of just was like interested in getting started with it. So we connected about a year ago, and then in the beginning, it was pretty ugly for sure. I didn't like have a clue of what I was doing. I'd say like I'm shocked I won any trades in the beginning or like made any money, just because it seemed like I had a strategy and idea, but it was really just like, let's put this trade in and pray kind of thing, and see how it goes. And there's so much to learn, like even just the basics, lot sizing and stuff like that. Like you think like zero point 0.01, it seems so minuscule, but like depending on the pair that you're trading, that can add up or subtract pretty quickly. So yeah, I've known John for a while. Honestly, we came from the same hometown, so that's pretty dope. I had that trust factor, and even if you didn't know John and join the community, you definitely build that trust factor up pretty quickly, just with the information he shares and like how transparent he is and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure, bro. And I appreciate that, man. And I know when we had that first conversation too, it was pretty cool because you did have an idea of like finance. You had a really good understanding of how kind of the fundamentals work when you're looking at companies and stock trading. It was just now using that kind of underlying knowledge now in combination with just some of the technical stuff that we teach here that I feel like was definitely a game changer here. And I remember when you first started, you were crushing it, with some of the signals and obviously some of your own trades as well. And I do remember there was a specific trade that cost you the most money, and I think it was somewhere in the first flip challenge. And kind of break down what happened in that trade, and then how did you kind of push through that?
Yeah, for sure. There's kind of like little things that you like pick up on early, and say you hit like a trade or two. Like for me, price gaps was kind of a thing that was like, oh, these are bound to close, and they're gonna like the price is going to retrace back to this area within a few days because there's price discrepancy. And there's things that like if you hit that with a trade or two, you're like, oh, this is law now, like this always happens. So I think for like there must be some truth behind this. So I think in the beginning, certain times, I think it was oil specifically, and crazy time to like start trading, which is like the war and with how volatile oil and some other commodities have been. I think there was a price gap, and kind of just like threw some of the strategy that John teaches out the window and was like, all right, this is going to close. Like, I think it was actually a price cap above where it was and it had dropped. And I was like, all right, we're in a war. Like, I doubt oil is ever going to be this high again. If it's going to like ever clear this gap, it's got to do it soon. And I just like over leveraged, just was way too cocky about like what I thought was going to happen. And the market for sure like does a good job of humbling you in those moments. And then it was kind of just like I held the trade on for a few days thinking, all right, like I'm in pretty big drawdown right now, but like any day now it's gonna turn around. I'm gonna go back to break even at least or it's like my initial plan's gonna work out, and then it just never came to fruition. Like it was just like a week and a half in of just sweating this trade, and I was like, all right, I just gotta like bite the bullet and get out here. And it was good because it continued to drop down. But yeah, for sure, I think there was just some strategies out there that you may read up on a few times, you try it out, it may work once or twice, and then you get too confident behind that when it's really just like there's not too much like truth behind what that strategy entails. I mean, for sure, price caps and stuff like they do eventually close, but the timing can vary drastically.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned a couple things there, which is great. You mentioned the biggest thing was like holding on to like the losers because like
Yeah.
psychologically, a lot of times, even I've done it in the past, and once in a while I'll have to check myself where I'll just make sure that doesn't happen because when I first started trading, it's like you almost want to be right so bad, or you're kind of just hoping and praying that it comes back so it breaks even. I think that's like the biggest thing that I had issues with, and even like the over trading or one thing
Yep.
like over leveraging. There's like a certain way to scale it, and we could talk. We're gonna break that down like later today, but the biggest problem was just like over leveraging kind of without a plan. I think that is like the worst thing sometimes. And I mean, me and you've both gone through it like where we all just want to make money as quickly as we can. And something looks just so perfect
Yeah.
where it just like you decide to break your rules. And sometimes it works in your favor and you look like a superstar. And sometimes it doesn't. And you just end up like blowing the account or sacrificing a large part of the account.
Facts.
But let's just go through like some of the challenge numbers here, man, to see like kind of just what happened here and how you started off and kind of tell me a little bit about the journey here. So yeah, we'll look at it in like real time here.
Yep.
Let's just like go through it real quick. So obviously you have a pretty great like account number just based on the average lot sizes here, the amount of winning trades, the amount of losing trades. Tell me a little bit about like when you did get started, what was your starting balance? How did it end? How long did it take? And just some of your worst drawdown along the way.
Yeah, no, this account looks good. This is probably like my third account. The first two were definitely not as pretty as this one, but I'd
Yeah.
say I started off with like 500 like right out of the go. This is when I was first starting off and kind of just like teetered around 500 to 1,000 for a few weeks. And this is when I'm still learning like lot sizes, like very basic stuff. So in the beginning, I for sure struggled. I think my win rate was like below 40%. I was still kind of understanding the basics. So like even your strategy wasn't like clicking yet because I was still like just picking up on like, simple stuff. So it took a few months. I'd say like even on with those first two accounts and get it up to like 1,000 or 2,000 and then just could like never break over that hump. It would just go back to 1,000, 1,500 and kind of just teeter between 1,000 and 2,000 for probably like a month and a half or 2 months. And then I really just was like starting to pick up on what you were teaching, like the strategy. The basics were like kind of set in stone. I understood those. And you kind of just like set it out in like a game plan format. Like at the end of the day, it is kind of like a game. So just like understanding how to approach that and having a strategy behind it was super helpful. Like starting with fundamentals, kind of getting a bias that way, then checking charts out and seeing like, does this match with what fundamentals is saying? So using those two things in tandem, and then just like the other things you teach, like between order blocks and like identifying where reversals might happen and stuff like that. I think I was finally starting to able to like have a better idea of zones to enter trades, exit trades, and just kind of everything was clicking, especially in your like one-on-one meetings. You're the only group I've been a part of, but I doubt people are going in as in depth like into just the background and the fundamentals of like what's going on in the world, just like looking at options, futures, just a lot of different things that you're looking at to build that bias before you even start looking at the chart. So you kind of taught me early on that like fundamentals is huge. I kind of had an idea of fundamentals, and then the chart analysis, technical analysis, where I really learned a lot from you. But just like putting it into a game plan. And one other thing would be definitely like psychology. It's like
Yeah,
you were
for
kind of
sure.
pointing that out with like revenge trading and over leveraging and just like wanting to win big early. Like you always would say, like if you treat it as gambling, you're gonna get gambling results. And that's so true. Like you really gotta just like can't get too high or can't get too low. You just gotta like stay with the flow of it and trust that like if you're approaching it in the right way and your mindset's in a right like spot, like these trades are eventually going to hit. Sometimes the markets react weird, but like if you have a good strategy behind it and are just like in a good mental mind frame, like a lot of it is belief. Like you got to really believe that this isn't too hard and this is something that you can learn, and it's not just like for the big institutions. Like if
Yeah.
you can trust that like we're all human, like anyone can really learn this, and having a good teacher like John and just someone that's been in the industry for 10 plus years, speeds up that learning process a ton. So
I'm glad to hear that. Like, obviously, you went through a roller coaster of like, obviously, having accounts that flipped before, accounts that like didn't flip before, accounts that, I remember you told me about the oil trade. You told me also about the gold trade.
yeah.
So, like, tell me, like, what would you say if there was one thing that like people out there that are wanting to do this and not just make 500% of their account or even 1,000% of their account, but also past challenges, see success with trading because you've just done it in a couple months. What would be like the turning point moment for you that changed and that you think would help everybody out that you notice just on this journey and on this process here?
Yeah, I would say it's two things. Probably first, psychology, like really just like you got to believe that, you can learn this stuff. If other people have learned it, like there's no reason you can't figure it out as well. And I start with that because you can have a great strategy and like, know everything you need to know about the fundamentals and just have good technical analysis with reading charts. But if you're like not confident going into these trades during the execution process, you might like get in too late, waiting to see like, is it really going to go the direction I think? Let me just like keep waiting out. And then by the time you entered, you've already missed half the trade, or the opposite, like wanting to be right so bad that you are in a bad trade and you like continue to stay in it because, you think it's going to flip around. So I think like belief, you got to start with that and just like being in a good mindset. I stop putting the excuses and just realize like, all right, if I really work on this, like there's no reason why I shouldn't see success like others have seen. So building up that belief and then just learning how to actually approach the game with like a strategy, fundamentals, technical analysis, and the whole strategy that you kind of teach just kind of gives you a better sense of like, all right, these things are matching up. Like I should enter this trade now and that type of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And when we do these flip challenges, obviously it's a part of just challenges that we do sometimes for free in the community that we've built here. And there's people that can join it for free or people that are in our VIP groups that have success with it. And one of the like best parts too as well that I've noticed here as we move along is we give people a lot of frameworks here. So these frameworks that we've designed are basically there to help people, compound their accounts. Because if you could follow the framework, it's based on different phases here. So tell me a little bit about the framework that you were using. I know we have one here as well that we use for flip challenges, and people can find this like obviously that we've used in the group for free here, from building a foundation to the accelerating part, compounding the account to then climbing it. So they can obviously do this here inside the platform. And now we've actually added this into the software journal where before we had to do it manually. Now people can do this and compound this with AI and have it walk you through each and every single step. So let me ask you this, like how important was the framework and some of the rules that were set like with the flip challenge? And how did that like work in helping build your account?
Yeah, no, it's super helpful. Especially like when you, first of all, it gives you like a goal, even just like starting at 1,000 and having an end goal of 5,000 or 10,000, whatever it may be. You're kind of like striving for something and not just like playing each day, like what's going to happen. So that kind of sets the tone. And then especially if you're new and learning, like you don't really understand like what lot size should I have in the beginning? What should be like my risk ratio here, risk to reward ratio here. So you definitely like built out a good framework where it's like, all right, in phase one, when you're building up from like 500 to 1,000, say if you're starting with 500, this is the certain lot size you want. This is your risk to reward. And you do a good job of kind of only calling out trades that have at least like a 1 to 3, 1 to 4 risk reward. So this way, if they, I mean, having above a 50%, 60% win ratio is pretty solid. But if your risk to reward is favorable, like 1 to 4, 1 to 5s, that win ratio can go down a little bit and you could still be profitable. So kind of understanding that. And then once you like move along with each phase, say you're in phase two or phase three, understanding, okay, I can like now increase the risk to reward ratio a little. I mean, how much I'm risking, like the lot size for some of these accounts, especially if that's the goal. If you're trying to like flip something within a month, it's like a systematically fast pace where you're kind of like, all right, I'm in phase one. This is my lot size. Phase two, let's start moving it up. Phase three, you can move it up even more. So your wins are getting bigger because you have more capital to kind of play off of. But there's also like that other factor where if you lose a few in a row, then, and this is where like I think it's like really key with kind of your teachings and just like being disciplined is like, all right, say you lose a few trades in a row, you were in phase three, like pretty close to that end goal of a $5,000 or $10,000 account. But if you lose a few in a row and you go back to the 2,000, 3,000 range and you're back in phase two, like you got to also adjust like your risk and bring that lot size back down and kind of like go back to the rules of what it was for phase two and just kind of staying within that framework. Like if you don't have kind of like these parameters and discipline, like checklists, you're going to win a few big ones in a row and you can easily grow that account a few thousand within a week. But if you keep kind of like using that same risk to reward and same lot size and everything, not every trade's going to hit. So it could go back down and like, you can blow an account as quickly as you can build one up. So I think kind of just like having a framework and just being disciplined with like the lot sizes you have, the risk to reward, it definitely simplifies how to build accounts and also like gives you that discipline checklist to be like, all right, if I do lose some trades here, like how can I actually build this back up without trying to like win it all in one? And then, that one doesn't hit and you're back to zero and the challenge is over. So
Yeah.
I think like you provided just like a great framework to building those accounts.
That's fire. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. And I think, a lot of people have gotten a lot of help from it. And I really feel like it's helping people out. And let me ask you this, because obviously when you first started, you were brand new, you got some new information. And as you started, growing your account, you started journaling, you started tracking your trades, kind of bring in how important it is to track your trades, to journal, and to be really self-aware of what you're doing as a whole. Like when it comes to whether it's passing a prop, account flipping, or just trading in general.
I think it's so important. I think like you would always say like anything you track grows and that's pretty like factual. Kind of with anything in life, if you're like keeping an eye and your awareness is like keen to what you're trying to progress towards and that goal, like especially if you're journaling and have an idea of how each day went, like you can see the patterns more clearly. Like, all right, these trades worked when I was like staying within this framework and being disciplined. It seemed like I was having good success there. And then same with the bad, like you have an idea, like especially if you're not journaling, like revenge trading and trading way too much in one day, like you'll probably have an idea of that. Like, oh yeah, last week, like I usually only put like 5 trades in and I did like 20 that day. You do have like in the back of your mind an idea of it, but like the journaling just like calls it out so much more with being able to like see, oh yeah, let's not do that again. Or so you definitely can learn from your mistakes and like that's the best way to get better at anything. And without journaling, you have an idea and like remember some of the bad losses, but like you're probably going to repeat those mistakes again if you're not like aware of like why you even did that mistake and stuff like that. So I think journaling helps with that.
100%. I always say that trading, it's interesting because it's almost like having a business. What you track grows. To build a business and grow a business, you have to track something. But with trading, it's the same concept, right? If you want your trading account to grow, you have to have something to track to it, And when it comes to that, I think it's big to keep tracking, constantly be journaling here. So that way you can recognize your pattern. Because we all have patterns. You know, you have a
Yes.
trading pattern, you have a personal and psychology pattern, and then you have a fundamental pattern here. So that's like one of the reasons why we even created Trade DNA, was so that the software could actually track your personal patterns, which is your personal psychology patterns, your trading and technical patterns here all in one go. And then it could also track the fundamental patterns. And what it'll be able to do is, you know, obviously give you the ability to get all those patterns together all in one go and then give you a result and generate a report for you. You know, that way you have an idea of what's happening and why. Now we're coming here towards the end of the call. I wanted to ask you, man, like, what's your thoughts on like the community and how important was it just being a part of the community? Obviously, you have people from around the world here, and I've known you here for such a long time, but you have people from, you know, Europe, people from even Australia. There's some people in the community from Australia, some from South Africa. The community is massive here. So kind of tell me, how did the community play a role into like you getting into trading, and how much of it was them versus also yourself, you know, putting in the work?
Yeah, I think it's really cool, especially like with how many corners of the world it's touched, like having people from all over the world being in that community. It's really cool. It definitely kind of just like keeps you motivated. Just with it, it's constantly every single day there's messages in the community with people tossing out trade ideas or just like bullshitting about like what's going on. So it keeps you up to date with things just in general about the markets and stuff like that. But you also build motivation like from seeing people win, and you know, we post trade results in there and just like, yeah, seeing someone have a really good day, it's like, hell yeah, I want to do that too. Like I'm due for one of those. And yeah, so I'd say like, and no one's like jealous or like, you know, I don't get that vibe at all from anyone in the community. It's very like supportive. People are always like shouting you out if you have a good day, and it's reciprocal. And I think it really just like keeps you informed about everything. You always have John or Nadia or some of the other people within the group kind of like to lean on when you're stuck, especially starting off with certain questions and stuff like that. And then, yeah, you meet new people. You kind of all have the same goal of wanting to succeed with trading. So it's just positive vibes, and yeah, it keeps you motivated and like informed with what's going on.
No, it's great, man. Because I always say like environment is a big thing. Like naturally, when you're around people that are constantly winning, it's just
Yep.
normal to win, you
Yep.
know? So you are the five people that you're surrounded with most, and most people's environments are negative. They're focused on things that don't accelerate them in terms of growth. And overall, it's just toxic, right? That's most
Yeah.
environments. But the great thing here is like people are communicating, not just that, growing each other in terms of like personal development, uploading content to each other for us to listen, and then also holding each other accountable by just being consistent together, you know?
For
So
sure. Yeah.
that's why I really do say like a community really does help build and makes winning like natural, right?
Yep, that's so true.
And the last thing, this is the last question, man. I want you to be like brutally honest here. You know, for somebody that's just getting started with trading or looking to get started with trading or that's watching this video, was this like easy or was this difficult? And what would you tell somebody to expect the same type of results if they're just coming in and looking to do something like what you just did?
Nothing's like easy in life. So I wouldn't say like you're not gonna come in and make thousands right away. And that was my belief. And that's just kind of like ignorant for anything. Like even if you're starting a sport, like if you think you're just gonna go out there and dominate without like knowing how to dribble and, you know, do the basics things, like you're gonna get humbled pretty quickly. So no, it wasn't easy, but it's for sure doable. And I think like it's smart to get a coach or some sort of like guidance early, because you're probably going to end up paying for it anyways with, you know, your losses and just the money you're not making. So
Yeah.
that definitely accelerated my growth. I had a background in stocks and that definitely helped, but just chart analysis and a lot of that other stuff that you need in day trading, I didn't really have a clue on how to do any of that. So it just like things that might have taken me a year to learn, I was able to learn in a few months. Once you kind of start seeing success, thing I like about the community is just like your constant approach to mindset and psychology, like staying positive, you know, truly believing that you can do this, and if you think you can, like you will do it. And so that's a constant like good reminder when people, you know, are having bad days or whatever it may be, even if they're having positive days, like, all right, let's stay in this mindset. For sure, with anything that you're learning, there's going to be some bumps and like challenges in the beginning, but it's even like more fulfilling once you get overcome those things and you start to see success. Because if it was like straight easy from the get-go, you wouldn't appreciate it as much or really learn some of the lessons you learned like along the way. So that's kind of my takeaways. It's going to be difficult. Kind of anything worth having in life is kind of difficult. So expect that, but for sure, like keep belief and just like pay attention to the stuff John's saying. And he definitely knows his stuff, and do your own research on the side and you can for sure make it. And it doesn't just have to be the big institutions winning. Like you can kind of learn their game and play off of it as well. So that would be like my takeaway from it all.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I really do agree with everything here that you're saying. The journey and I would say the process is one of the most thrilling parts because you're going to go through lows and highs, and then inevitably, as long as you're consistent, you're going to end up just in the high in the long run. So I appreciate speaking to you and you kind of breaking this down here and just keeping it authentic and organic here, because obviously, there's a lot of groups out there and you can kind of attest to this. There's a lot of information out there, 100 million different strategies, a million different markets and pairs, and then also all this junk out there, but you found something that works, bro. So excited for that. And I appreciate you, bro, for this, and looking forward to see the more success that you see.